What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Gear Breaker Nation, where we give excellent assessment and reviews. And in this review, we're going to be talking about the movie Dope. Now, Dope is a 2015 comedy crime drama, and it follows these three high school nerds that are just obsessed with the 90s era, who end up finding themselves getting pulled into the dope game. Now, I have to say, this movie was surprisingly pretty good. One thing I could go ahead and say is just the acting. The acting was really good. I really enjoyed these characters. Shameik Moore, Tony Revolori, and even Kiersey Clemons give these three main characters a lot of life and great personality. It was great watching the back and forth dynamic between these characters. Really hilarious at times, and then when things started to jump off, or when emotions ran really high, I really felt for these characters. Another character that I thought was just fun and was really cool was Will. Blake was played by Blake Anderson. I thought the guy was hilarious. He had some pretty funny lines, and there was also this really funny sequence between his character and Kiersey's character, with this bit back and forth of him slapping him. That was pretty solid. It was pretty funny. I like Zoe Kravitz. I wish she would have had a bit more to do up in there, but she was really hot in this film, so I wish she would have had a little bit more to do, especially her dynamic with Moore's character Malcolm. Also, Roger Smith is in this movie, and I like the way his character was being portrayed in the film, but that one issue I did have was the fact that he does that little mumbling type of talk. You know, I'm wishing I could do this, but I can't. The director told me to talk like this. Since I'm talking like this, I won't do minutes anyway. You know, moments like this, I could barely understood the things that he was saying. Another aspect of the film I wish they could have touched on a bit more, besides Moore and Kravitz's relationship with their two characters. I wish it kind of would have stepped up a bit more with Moore's relationship with his mother Ellis. That's one thing I did find that the movie did kind of lack upon. It'd be nice to kind of see how she's kind of struggling more. I mean, I think there's really 2 or 3 scenes with her in it. It would have been nice to see a bit more of what he had to deal with at home compared to what he had to on the street. The characters had to be one of the best aspects of the film. Also, I like the way they presented the 90s era persona into our current timeline, and it's just interesting seeing how these two time periods are, are being compared to one another in this film. So I really like that for the most part. There's some really intense sequences that Malcolm has to find himself overcoming, either was rather life-threatening or just like an everyday situation. So it was really good how the film actually establishes that. So I have to give it to the director. They did a really good job with that. I actually felt like a hood type environment. So the movie was good. Also, another part of this film that is just really good and so well done is the soundtrack. There are so many 90s throwbacks, and the way it's just presented in this movie just makes it feel so authentic. And in much of a way, it does feel like it's a 90s movie. And the way these characters are portraying the 90s aspect, the way the music sets in certain sequences of the film, it just makes it that much more enjoyable and entertaining. The story is where everything becomes a bit of a mixed bag. Although the movie is still good, there was some elements of the story which I think weren't bad. It just took the movie in an odd turn. The movie does essentially follow these three who ends up getting pulled into the dope game, and you think the way the film presents itself, it goes off in one aspect, but about halfway through the movie just pretty much just turns its head. So it goes into a totally different direction. It's not too far-fetched a direction, but it's a totally different tone compared to the first half of the movie. So there was that bit of, there was kind of that. I kind of had an issue with it, but it still kind of stuck with the movie. It wasn't too far right, so it still kept my interest going. The movie still continued to be enjoyable. Now, I have to say, I really did enjoy this film. I did like the acting. I like the 90s throwback. I say, guess in the end, guys, Dope definitely deserves a 3 out of 5. Now, honestly, I wanted to give this movie a 4. Besides the big kind of twist in the story that kind of threw me off, and the lack of exposition I felt could have been put into the main character's relationship with Nadia and his relationship with his mom, but the movie still is a pretty solid 3, which if it was in the halves or something like that, it would be a high 3 or almost a 4. But I have to be honest about this movie. However, I really did enjoy this movie, and this is actually a movie I would go watch again. So in the comment section below, guys, tell me what you thought about Dope. Did you see it? Did you like the 90s throwback? Did you like the, you know, the characters and the acting? Do you think Zoe Kravitz was pretty hot? And to the next edition of Geek Breaker Nation, keep them gears turning, guys.